We're back again with another podcast. Today we have the amazing Lyndon Whalen, Sol Kendamas Pro. Welcome, Lyndon. How are you today, dude?
Yeah, what's up, man? I'm good. Thank you for having me, bro.
Dude,
I'm
yeah,
honored.
it's a pleasure to have you on. And you know, you've been you're a kendama veteran. We've known each other for a very, very long time. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today because I think a lot of people watching haven't are just you have more experience than a lot of players, you know? How long have you been playing?
Almost 12 years, man. Thank you, dude. Thanks for having me. Likewise, you're a veteran yourself. But yeah, almost 12 years.
Yeah. 12 years. Yeah, and where are you from, and how'd you even get into Dama?
I'm from Marietta, Georgia, and Georgia is the home of Kendama USA, which I believe is the first Kendama brand in the U.S. Uh, you can maybe fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure they're the first. So Georgia just had waves and waves of kendama, and as a middle school kid, brought one to my school bus, and a couple months later, we all had one, and I've never stopped since.
And that's like the same exact story as me, pretty much. It was like a showed up in my middle school, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm on that." But only after 3 months of neglecting it, though, as like as kind of a dumb trend, you know, because I'm 11 years old and I have like other
Yeah,
better
yeah,
things to
yeah.
do with my life. Uh,
I hated it too. I hated when
oh,
I
really?
first saw
That was
kendama.
my next question. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hated it. Thought it was dumb, and then when everyone else kept getting one, I was like, all right, I guess I gotta get it and play it.
yeah.
And now we're here.
And how did you ever get past this? Because obviously people were into it and then stopped playing, right? Did
Yeah,
you ever struggle with the motivation to continue playing, especially in those early years when you saw maybe your friends and not play with it anymore and also die out as a popular thing in school?
yeah. I did. So maybe I was playing for probably like at 2 year point, 2 year mark. It was when I realized like nobody else was playing at all. Like it dwindled from hundreds of kids to 40 to 20 to 5 to my homie. And then my homie stopped, and suddenly I'm like, yo, I'm like the only person that plays, and I kind of wasn't playing every day. But conveniently enough, like that summer, that same summer, I was like, oh, I got to figure out, like, I'm just playing less. I play soccer. I had like a lot of things going on. The Soul, like a sponsorship contest for Sol Kendamas came that summer.
Hmm.
Uh, and my friend put me on to that. And that was like, okay, I play Kendama and play for 2 years. Let me try for that. And that was like the needed motivation at a time where I was like not playing with anybody, starting to lose focus, didn't have any, was losing trick concepts. Just felt like, oh, I'm just session alone. So that was like a good like revitalizing
Yeah.
moment.
And what year was that?
Mm-hmm. 2015.
2015.
2015.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
summer of 2015.
Yeah. Okay. So you got on Soul summer 2015. It's been 9 years, dude. It's been 9 years,
Yeah,
and you've been on Soul the whole time.
yeah. The whole time
Yeah.
since Soul's had a team, a sponsor player.
Yeah.
I'm on that first batch. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
How do
remember some
they?
of the
No, I
you'll
remember
remember
some.
some of the OGs.
I
Yeah,
remember some of the old players that entered that
yeah,
contest. I mean, Wesley, Will
dude.
Shivey,
Yeah, that was you guys
Evan.
were you sesh together with Wesley.
Oh yeah,
You and Nick.
yeah. I we seshed a lot, like especially that summer, like of the Soul contest. I mean, I hung out with Wesley. It's so funny. I was literally thinking about that this morning. I was thinking about that this morning. I was looking outside, like, man, I used to literally, dude, this guy from this town called Bonnie Lake. So Wesley lived in Sumner, and this other guy named Zach lived in Bonnie Lake. And Bonnie and Zach was older than us. He was older than us by a few years, and he would drive for like to pick Wesley up, which was like really close to him. But then he would drive all the way, um, all the way north to where Nick and I live, which was like 50 minutes, sometimes an hour, to pick us up, and then also drive like 30 minutes west to to go to our like session spot, and no, like for an entire day. And then he would do that, and then he would drop us all off. So
What
he
a
would,
G,
and dude,
dude.
we would do that like every other day in summer, like every other day. I saw Wesley a lot, but so yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
anyways, yeah, back in those. Back in those days, you had the old OG players and from Sol, Cal Nasser, all these people who were
Oh
entering this
yeah,
contest. Even Zach Banks into the contest. I remember his videos in particular. Like for some reason, his just videos stick out in my mind. But
nice. Alex Mitchell was in the contest too.
oh, was he? Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And all these players who got on the initial sponsorship, but for all the players who got on initially, I mean, well, you're the only one who's still on, right?
Last one standing, dude. Last one going.
Yeah. What did that so you've been playing Kendama for 2 years at that point, and your the interest is sound like it was dwindling a little bit. It was,
Slightly,
you're
slightly, yeah.
only yeah, slightly you're only person playing from your town, sounded like, or your friend group died out. How what did really that sponsorship mean to you back then? Like what did you feel like when you got the announcement response, when you got the call or got the message that you were on the team? And actually before that, I just want to talk about real quick, how did that sponsorship contest even go down? How did it work? Because some players nowadays might not even understand like
Yes,
what we're talking about.
right. That's not even a sponsorship contest isn't as common anymore. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a good point. It was common back then. So that contest was, I think there's a time limit of YouTube video. It had to be between 2 minutes and 4 minutes. And they were just, hey, land tricks. Tell us about yourself. Whatever you can fit in these 4 minutes. Sol Kendamas, we're getting our first pro team. And that was like basically it. You have 4 weeks. I think you had like a month. Yeah, it started announced in June, end of June. Submit your video. So it did that. Luckily, had a lot of free time. I think I got my wisdom teeth out or something. So I was just like at the house a lot. And they had, I think, like 110 videos from round one. I think 110 submissions. And they shortlisted that. They took all that. And then I guess Chad and Shelton, the Covington brothers, owners of Soul, co owners, watched all the entries and they shortlisted it to like, I think 15 or 20. And then those 15 or 20 names, you got a round two video out of those. So it was like from 110, here's the 20 people, make a round two video, and then we're going to select the final team. And the round two video, same rules, like 2 to 4 minutes, land tricks, do something to make you stand out. Kind of, yeah, I don't know. It was like a fun, back then, Kendama was very film edit heavy. So it wasn't too outrageous because it was kind of just like, now people film Instagram clips. It'd be if someone would sponsor you for how you film your Instagram clips. It wasn't like you're going out and filming a project. You're making a video anyways. You kind of just like, now you have a good reason to make a video. So it's how it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
But I know it's been going on a minute. Getting sponsored was the best day of my freaking life. Like literally when I found out that night, it was so late. It was like 1 a.m. or something. I was in high school as a junior. I had school the next morning. It was like I was on the Zoom call with Chad, or I guess not Zoom. Back then it would have been I don't remember what it was like a really famous like FaceTiming service. Not Zoom
Skype.
though, it was before the blow up. But it was a Skype. Yeah, yeah. Wow, it was a Skype call with Chad and Shelton. And what did he told me, he was like, hey man, he asked me a bunch of random questions actually. It's like, what's your favorite kendama of all time? Like, what's your favorite trick of all time? What are your hobbies? Where are you from? And then he's like, you just filled out your bio for the player website on Soul. Welcome to the team.
No way,
And
that's
I was
so
like,
sick.
yeah. And I started like screaming. So I was like, oh, it's 2 a.m. Like, my house is sleeping. And I was like, yeah, I was like, did it. Finally. Whole day at school. Bro, I probably failed every test and quiz I had that day. I was just on cloud nine. Like, the whole day in school was like, dude, I'm a sponsored Canal player. Just every day walking the hallway, I was getting like texts from all my friends and stuff. It was like, oh, that was such a good day. That was like one of the best days of my life for sure.
Dude, that's oh my God. That's amazing. Man, it's so
Yeah, you know
interesting
how it
because
is. You know
yeah,
how
literally,
it
I can
is.
relate so
Yeah,
well. I can relate so much
yeah,
to that because I mean, I felt the exact same like thing. That how you got added to the team though, when Chad said that. That's actually awesome.
yeah.
I can only imagine. Like, he's like, you just filled out your bio for the website. I mean, I remember just freaking out when I saw like a banner. I have like the text, those notification types when you get like a banner on your phone. You get like a text
Yeah,
and a banner comes down. Yeah, mine was just like I saw it was like Matt Sweets Jorgensen, and it was like a Facebook text, and it was like, "Hey guys, uh, some text and then dot, and I didn't even read the text. I started screaming because I don't know, and I literally could have been anything else besides the sponsorship. It could have been anything else, dude. But I just decided to freak out, and it was. But anyways, yeah, it's yeah, man. I can feel. I know what you're talking about. The feeling of being on
Yeah,
cloud
it's
nine
a rush.
and
It's
that
a
huge
rush.
rush, dude. And for after that, I mean, I remember seeing you at MKO
Yeah.
2015. I mean, you started to travel a lot after that. I know yeah, you started to travel a ton after that. How was the development of the Soul team? Because I kind of want to get into that. I want to get into you know, you are the last player standing from that initial sponsorship. And I'd love to talk about kind of the Soul, I mean, your experience on Soul and how the company's developed from your perspective in the next coming years. So if you have any highlights in the years, 2015, 2017, 2019, that era of players. I'd love to hear your experience on Soul from then how you grew as a player and how the company grew. You guys grew together.
Mm. Wow, some good points to hit on. Man, yeah, the travel, everything so you're like a 16-year-old kid getting sponsored, and then someone's like, "Hey, we're gonna like do you want to go compete in this other state? We got to take a couple days travel and all that." You're like, "Heck yeah, it's the best feeling ever." So I had never flown or anything. It gave me a lot of Kendama gave me a lot of reasons then to like travel. I'd never done anything, never been on a plane. That was very something it's common now, but I remember like the first time on the plane, I'm like, dang, this is freaking like I'm nervous, dude. This is like I've never been on a plane before by myself ever. So traveling kind of like I'd say help you mature a little bit, give you some good life experience. And like to see Soul kind of it was more of like a startup, smaller company at that point,
Mm-hmm.
like under 10,000 followers and fresh team. Chad was a newer owner. I think he had been in business for a year, and he was more as like a known as a sponsored player for Kenko. So I didn't expect too much, just like free kendamas and not even a lot, a couple to film tricks or like whatever it was. I was really just stoked for the opportunity. And it felt like a gradual build with them. Like every year, maybe at the beginning, it was a little bit of like a figuring things out. As you see, like not a lot of the original team is still there. They all one by one slowly pieced out. But I think honestly, man, they just didn't see the. I always saw like a vision long term. I was like, oh, we'll
Mm.
get to that point. Like you know how it is. Like we'll get to that point, but right now we're in a little bit of a, maybe we're only going to figure out what our company identity was and get the product better, establish a shape and some company culture, and we also picked players that matured. I think that was a key that we didn't realize. We picked players not like they're going to be bangers right now. The second we add them to the team, we picked players that like, hey, in 4 years, this kid's going to be. So like, kind of you're asking about like the team, how it went. I think Kevin DeSoto got added to Soul really quickly after the original six. Maybe we had been going for 6 months, and that added. He was like the first kind of like legit, already sponsored by Yumu. He had
Yep.
experience. He was a competitor. That added a little bit of legitimacy to Soul because like he had other offers from. We don't get into the deeps. But he had offers from a lot of companies to get
Yeah.
sponsored by basically anyone he wanted, and he chose Soul. And I was like, okay, taking a little risky move, seeing where it goes, and that added some glue to the team. And I think the team would dwindle, and it wound up with being like it dwindled down to like Kevin, myself, and Will Shivey on the pro team, and we had this girl Allie Koenig, Dama Owls Shredder. She ripped. She was kind of in from the 2016-17 era,
Mm-hmm.
and that was when Chad was like, "Yo, we need to add some freshness." And then we added Alex Mitchell, Kelvin Wong, Jackson Andrus, and Peter Ramos, all in 2017. And I moved to the pro team as well, like all the same day. I think it was like April 2017. About a year after that, we'd had Liam, which is Liam Router. If you don't know, like again, he was always really good, but he wound up being like one of the best competitors of all time, a really
Yep.
good pro player, just literally a perfect fit for Soul, and it was like very organic. Like we just liked him. He ripped. He lived locally. He got along with everyone on the team. He wound up being like an ideal Soul pro, perfect fit. So that was like a 2017-18 era. Get in 2019. I want to say that's when Alex Mitchell will go. No, no, no. Sorry, they're blurring together. I think we might add like some Japan players.
Mm-hmm.
2019. Add to the Japan team. Zuki and Ayumu, Sumida and Chiba. Shout out.
Let's go.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm trying to think. So it gets a little blurry from 2020 to 2024.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically where like Kelvin and Alex will step up to the pro team. We get in some legends. We get Chris Bosch, which is like that was another like, why are you kidding me? Chris Bosch plays kendama at a high level again, and he wants to go for Sol, like out of all companies, and like ask any pro. You know how it is. Any pro, Chris Bosch is like their favorite pro or one of the pros they looked up to.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's
Um,
obvious that like Soul has had a lot of development over the years. I mean, it's the reason why I'm so interested in talking about this is because I mean, every company starts out small, but I legitimately remember Soul
yeah.
in 2013 as this random kendama Instagram. I was like, oh, Soul Kendamas, that's super okay. Like, what is this? Like when I didn't know anybody who was behind it, I just knew they had one single shape. And I don't even know if I knew it was Chad running the company for until like a few months after the whole Instagram got released or whatever. But I remember the company go. I remember just it being just a startup, like exactly as you said, like 100, 200 followers to seeing it to grow to now. And it's not even just a, a bigger company now in the game. It's actually like I see Soul as an exceptional company, especially in the sense of, I mean, on top of the product, the designs, the what they've done, what you guys have done with the Konami community and everything like that, but also as a model team to look at for your guys's as you touched on it, you said company culture, the team culture that you guys have. I think that's really, really special. And I've been in Konami for a long time, 12 years, and nowadays when I see your guys' team, it's like you guys are all best friends. And I know it's like obviously like it's like
Yeah.
obvious like, oh yeah, everyone on the team like should be really good, could get along with each other. But no, it's like you guys have really had a lot of experiences together, and you guys have all. I mean, I feel like there could be any mixture of you guys on the team hanging out, and it would be like the same exact vibe, which is rare, which is hard to do. It's hard to do on teams, especially because your guys' team isn't even like small. It's pretty like mid-sized. You guys have a decent amount of players in your team, yet all players seem to be super good friends with each other. Talk to me about that, the culture behind Soul, because it is really um it seems like one of a kind in today's game with that.
Culture of Soul, dude. That's gosh, you got some well educated, like really thought out points. I love it, man. I love it. I'd say I agree with you, man. We are all best friends on Soul, and the team. I think we're like 20 odd deep at this point, 20 something people.
Yeah.
Uh, I would
I
say
get
it really all it comes from Chad. What's up?
Oh no, go ahead. I was gonna ask you I was gonna ask you what do you guys think makes you guys so close?
I really think it comes from Chad, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like it starts at the top, probably in anything. If you want to have a cohesive unit, it's got to start at the leadership level, the
Yep.
top.
Yep.
And the crazy thing is, Chad is so good at making it seem like it's all natural and easy and takes no effort. So you don't see how much he's like really works to do all this and what effort he puts in. It just seems like he wakes up and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do this, and guys, we're gonna just here you go." Like, but I think in his head, he really just loves kendama, wants to put together a team of people that love kendama, wants to push them to the highest level they can be, so that they can push every other kendama player or person in the world to get involved. Like it literally, his brain is just thinking about pushing and growing kendama more because he loves it. Everything else that comes from that is a bonus. He doesn't think about anything besides that. Like so I think keeping it simple slowly trickles down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Keeping it simple. Yeah, and what you said like about him it's seeming like all natural what's happening. But
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe for him that's one of and, maybe for Chad, I mean, obviously he puts in a ton of work, but maybe this side of him that is picking the team, that is setting this culture for the team. I mean, I mean, it's all from his personality, who he is as a person. I think that is natural. I mean, he seems to be being himself and attracting the right people for the company just through that and through the vibes he's setting an example
Yeah,
for the team. And I'm really that is yeah, that I think that's really, really awesome.
yeah.
And to see you guys at events together, it's really cool, dude. It's really cool. I mean, I
Oh,
talked to you about this
thank you, man.
before. Um,
Yeah,
what do you so and I like that point you brought up a couple minutes ago about picking up players that are like maturing. You know, I mean,
yeah,
all the
yeah,
picks that you
yeah.
guys have, like for example, you picked up. I mean, well, Liam was already sponsored and pretty much known, but you picked up Kelvin, you picked up Jackson Andrus, and one more person, and during that one era.
Alex Mitchell was
Yeah.
in that
Oh,
same
okay.
group.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah,
obviously, like, and then look at the state of these players now. You know, I mean, Alex is literally one of the best players on the planet still, like right now,
yeah.
and one of the best competitors of all time. Kelvin has really come into his own as a competitor as well. I mean, did you have a hand in? You had a hand in. Yeah. Did you have a hand in those picks as well?
Yeah, everything with Soul is like a very it's very across the board kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
we're all open on usually most every single thing that's happening with Soul. It's agreed upon team. We don't really add people or make a move like that unless the entire family is like, all right, let's do it. So yeah, I think when we were adding those people and Peter Ramos as well, it was like Chad would kind of ask, "How you guys feel about this? Is there anyone that you had in mind?" Or like, if someone catches our eye, like I think that might have been how. I'm trying to think something maybe like Rudney. Rudney was one of our
Sure.
recent additions to the team, and he's like same thing as Kelvin and Alex. Like got him, and a year and a half later, 2 years, it's like, dude, he is getting exponentially better. Chad's got a good eye for adding people, and like Rudney, the same thing. He can see if they love grinding and they love kendama. Like he can just see the pureness, and he knows like, all right, let's just elevate that. They'll do like just don't got to change them, let them keep being them, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he lets you
Mm-hmm.
work. He lets you work through things. He provides a space. Like I've benefited from it. He doesn't force you to like. Sometimes you hear about teams where they're like, "Hey, you got to put this many tricks a month, or you got to do this or that." Like he's very he'll work with you on your life schedule. He understands there's a lot going on, and he understands you're a person before anything, and like it translates. It makes you want to like run through a brick wall for him if he like without him even asking, just because he's just like the type of dude you want to like. I got you, bro. Say less. He's just a real one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. I feel like that I could talk to anybody from Seoul and they would say the same thing about him. So that's I think that's a huge testament to the culture you guys have on Seoul and yeah, once again it's really cool to even see that and see you guys talk about that. I wanna yeah, you did mention that he gives you space to you recognize you're a player, you're a person first, gives you space to figure out your life and doesn't hold you to any like strict expectations no matter what. And if you're screwed if you don't reach them, based on whatever. Let's talk about let's talk about 2019. 2019 was a big year for you in the sense of big changes in your life. You did
Yeah.
mention this in the pro video. You went through some physical challenges in starting that year and from when we talked, it seemed like a big point in your Dama journey and also just your life in general. What changed for you? What went down in that year, and how did it start affecting your play and your life in general?
Yeah, man. 2019 was you're right. That was a crazy year. It actually started really great. 2019, my pro model dropped. I've been playing for like a minute at that point, so that was like an awesome feeling. I got second place at Battle of the Border. Like at the event, my pro model dropped that, and it was tag team freestyle, but still I got second. Like I'm not really a freestyle guy, so it was like a strong start. But then probably around April, I remember I was at that point only doing a lot of running in kendama. It's like only form of exercise or anything for my body was just running in kendama. And one day I went for a run, and the back of my right knee was like felt strained, like really strained. I was like, I'll go away tomorrow. And like the next morning, it just didn't go away. And like the next morning, didn't go away. Next morning, didn't go away. And it wasn't like insanely painful, but it wasn't going away. It wasn't getting like better. And every time I started playing kendama, it kind of was like it's kind of hurting a little bit. And so I was trying to just figure it out at first from like May to like July, basically, because I was going to the World Cup that summer. But it basically, yeah, my knee just started hurting really bad, like all the time.
Mm.
And I was like trying to do stretches and learn about it, but it was like starting to really aggravate. So I took a lot of time off kendama. Went to the World Cup that summer still, and by the grace of God, qualified. Luckily, I think I'd just been playing so much kendama before I got to that point. I was in a good spot, but like didn't do anything special with my final run. Was in the finals, but didn't like pop off. Got back, and then my knee would just get like worse. It could like confuse me, so I just kind of stopped slowly wanting to play kendama. I think just
Mm.
because it would kind of hurt, and that was like yeah, start of like just a lag in my life and career, like both simultaneously. Kendama and like just the trajectory of my life seemed to go hand in hand with like being able to keep track of the years and keeping track of my progress. And like when that stopped and I stopped playing kendama, just lulled for like probably for 2 years, 2019 to 2021, of just no progress in kendama. Kind of let like the pain in my knees like it worked its way up to my back. I was really like, trying to figure things out, but my back started hurting. I was going to chiropractors and doctors, and I kind of just let it win. Kind of let all that pain win, and I started just like, stop playing kendama. Started being like a sadder version of myself,
Mm.
and I was still trying though. I'll tell you that, man. I was still trying. I kept like in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be shredding kendama again one day. But
Yeah.
every time I would try, I come back. Like I think 2021, I started playing again. It still didn't feel right. Something didn't feel quite right. Around 2022, I'd have some good progress. Figuring out is actually a lot of it was coming from my neck
Mm.
and a car accident I got into from when I was like 16 on a highway, and I shifted my first vertebra, compressed a lot of that brainstem, and I was feeling just like a lot of the nerves and just repetitive use, weakness, muscle imbalance, all that. And it's honestly not until like the last 5 6 months I finally feel like right now I'm like, dude, I think I might be the best I've ever been at kendama, like better
Yeah.
than at any point in my life. But yeah, that 2019 to 2021 spell was like took a step back. It was like a gut punch, man. I kind of just lost momentum because I was picking things up. I really wanted to compete well. I started the year like really good, pro mod, second place at battle. I think I did a couple of events, didn't podium, but a couple of top eights, like maybe Sakura Classic.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sakura Classic actually. I think you got second or third, maybe.
Mm.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
so you're
2019.
yeah, I think Stod won
Yeah.
freestyle, but yeah, so it started strong, and then man, that was like the took me off my course for a little bit those few years. Knocked me off my course.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
Tried
yeah,
to.
I remember back then I was really just kind of in shock what was going on. It's not like I knew the details of the situation, but I just remember, you were playing so much Kendama in 2018, and you were generally posting tricks that weren't being done by literally any other player. Like you were literally posting tricks that only you could do. Mm, and it was really, really
Man.
insane. I was like, dude, I was like, wow, Lyndon's like legitimately super good at Kendama now. Like, I don't know what's happened, but it like seemingly overnight, like for in my eyes, obviously you've been playing for
Yeah,
so
yeah,
long,
yeah.
so many hours, up until that point. But I was
So
like,
I got the
wow,
Gallagher
he's got
Sigil.
his pro mod. It's let's go, like, and then I think you took a couple months off posting in 2019, like after the start of the year, like after Battle of the Border. And then I remember you posted one trick and then nothing again for like a long time. And I was
Yeah,
just like, I was just like, okay, what is happening? This guy was just on a tear for like a year. And what's going on, And to find out later that it was this, and yeah, you still did go to the Kid World Cup and you still did qualify, which is just awesome. But to find out it was this later on, I was I didn't really understand the magnitude of like how much it was impacting you at the time because I'd never gone through an injury like that, like or anything like that myself. So it was hard for me to relate to. But you know, as I just want to ask you now, I mean, how it obviously wasn't easy getting through that, in the 2019 to 2022. It sounded like you were in and out of Kinama for a few years there. what was the, and you said in the back of your mind, but you mentioned that you kind of let the pain win and you kind of let a sadder version of yourself take over and you let the pain win. And obviously it's a tough journey, but you're on the other side of it now. What was the defining, what was the main motivator for you to still push through? Because a lot of people do give up. A lot of people would in your situation not push through to the end and reap the life that you're living now. What was the main motivator for you to push through all that and get to where you are now? Could be a
Dude, well,
combination of things too.
yeah. I think a couple things. One, I do believe in God, like above all else, believe in God, and I believe like there's a plan for everything in your life, and there's like things in front of you you can choose to like. They allow their decisions that will mold you, and like just the more I started learning about that, like typically everyone that would go through things, like you when you persevere, there's other things waiting for you at the end, and like you get through the tribulations and trials to find light at the end, sort of thing. So that like my mind, I've always just had a base level of like, okay, like, you shouldn't keep going, it'll work out. I guess you don't quit. But I also kind of was thinking like, yeah, I'm kind of like injured. Like I can't really play kendama, and it's pretty like my back is pretty messed up, and I'm not able to do some things, but I can still like walk, and I can still like there's still basic functions I can do. So it's not like I'm like I was kind of figuring like how much of this is like in my head, and I'm like just because it's maybe it's just an uncomfortable new feeling like oh like there's people out there that have been injured way worse or like significant injuries or something, and they've come back to play sports or to do crazy physical accomplishments. Kendama takes a lot out of you, but it's not like it's not an insanely physically
Mm-hmm.
taxing thing. So I get back to my head, I'm like, try not to be a baby no matter what you feel. Like always try to like think about it grown perspective. If you can move, you can get better at moving. Like you can work your way up kind of from the ground up. And then had to be having some realizations too. I'm like, well, Lyndon, you're not the strongest dude. Like, you only got big muscles. You haven't really done exercise. Maybe you should kind of work on some of that. That might
Mm-hmm.
help. And like, it'll be uncomfortable and painful at first. Cause I think that was the big thing was just some of the stretching and some of the early days of exercising was like, it really was painful. Like some things were moving that, dude, I feel like I've never moved for my life. So it would just be just uncomfortable, man. You get your neck worked on. You can't lay right, can't sleep right. But like, again, my mind, I'm like, it's only gonna get better. It's only gonna get better.
Mm-hmm.
And like as year went by, I feel a little better. 2 years went by, like right now, bro, I couldn't even. Like, I feel great right now, and I finally can play kendama and like focus on kendama and not my knees, or I can focus on the trick. And it's just, I kind of think it's like how you would go when you're filming a trick. If you're going for a banger, you get close, you get close. Like, would you quit? Would you turn the camera off and you're like, ah, I miss pin. I'm not gonna get it today. Like, just like no, just go again and then pin it the next time. So I kind of like that mindset. It's like every time I get a little discouraged, it's like, but you're making progress. You make progress.
Yeah.
Grand scheme of things too. Remembering that it's just playing kendama. There's people without a leg or people that can't see, and like that's way gnarlier than just a couple nerve problems and a really stiff neck. And like that's some stuff you could work through. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
So
and you say that the mindset of that banger if you get close, and then would you like quit if you got close? A lot of people would see your situation as a going for an NBD that they're literally 5 levels below on. Like some people. And so I think the thing I want to highlight here is just it kind of sounds like the main factor in you continuing to push on, continuing to strive forward was your belief in yourself and in God. It sounds like that was the main contributor.
yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I think that's really powerful to touch on and to hear your perspective on kind of your whole situation because, you know, that was a couple years, couple year ordeal there. And I think that's just a highlight to anybody listening right now. That's, some things take take time and something like this, it's not going to be solved overnight. Like obviously those issues that you had physically, they didn't form there overnight. There was the culmination of many years and many hours, of everything of all the experience you've had in your life and how your body was, adapting towards what you were giving it back then. And it took, years and of experience, you're reversing that out and reversing it to the other way, out of pain and into a new positive perspective and into a new quality of life that you're living now. What was the
Yeah.
you didn't mention physical, the important you did start working on yourself physically.
Yeah.
What would you rate the importance of that, as for Kanala players? How important would you say that is after your experience?
Dude, it's a 10. It's a 10 out of 10. And I'll tell you why, man, because even like it might not even just for the aspect of like you've got to be fit and in shape. It'll teach you about yourself. Like
Mm,
that, like exercising is what showed me what was actually weak within my body. I would do things and I'd realize I'm only getting stronger on this side, but not this side. And like I actually started really like noticing how my body moved and what I was doing. And if you play kendama, you stand a certain way. If you play kendama for hours, you're doing lots and lots of just unconscious movements. Same thing over and over again. It's just the laws of life that like if you do it one way a bunch, you ought to do it the reverse motion and balance it out, or else like
mm,
man, you're going to be shortening muscles. You're going to be tightening up things. You're not going to be playing at your best level of kendama if you're not even putting a small emphasis on fitness. Even if it's just something daily that if you're going to play kendama or really sesh that you can incorporate, even if it's just stretching or some light mobility. It doesn't have to be like weightlifting if that's not your vibe, but
hmm.
something, man, because that's like you got to think about it. Kendama is so new. I know you've talked about it actually in a couple of things, but it's kendama is so new and competitive kendama that when the NBA was playing in the 60s and 70s, they were wearing Converse, like flat Converse. And they're all 90 years old. They can't walk, and their feet are all full of arthritis. And they're like, "Oh, if we would have known what those shoes were doing to us, we never would have worn them." It's like kendama is kind of that same point where it's like, "Hey, let's just be cautious. Maybe we got to do some exercise where we don't get like hunchbacks and we can like still play when we're older." Like that's just
Hmm.
how I think about it. You know what I mean? I could be
Hmm.
wrong, but that's what I feel like. It just like it's not it makes sense. You're doing so much repetitive motion, like you got to do something to correct it a little bit. Some ability. All the best players I see are active and flexible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all the it's so interesting because I think all the best players across time, like all the greats, honestly, have been they've been able to their like physical ability, and what I'm talking about is being able to like react fast and like squat really low, to save tricks. It's always been really high. I mean, all the players have
Yeah,
done that. And some of these top players have stopped due to physical ailments. I mean, Jake Fisher's a good example. Like I wouldn't say I don't know about how big of a contributor his back was versus his lack of interest, his dwindling interest in Kendama, but I'm sure it
yeah.
didn't help. I
No, it
mean,
definitely didn't help. Yeah,
yeah, like, uh, so I'm sure these players have. There's been really good players in the past that have been dwarfed by physical ailments, but I think also too,
yeah.
these taking care of oneself. It's so hard to really know what Lyndon's talking about here to all the people listening and the importance of it. If you haven't had experience with it yourself, if you haven't had a certain pain, yourself, because at the end of the day, Kendama is so like you look at it, you're like, oh, that's just so it's just ball and cup, go up and down your knees and I think the thing that I've learned because I've actually had two also some physical challenges in my life that have motivated me to really start working,
Mm,
especially on my knees and stuff, as well as like you don't. Without the experience, it's really impossible to even know. Like you're like, and but also it's not like the your body's going to continue to be pain free, continue to be like super, super smooth just because you wish it to, And I think a lot of players, especially because now a lot of players now are really young, um, especially in Japan, but there's still a lot of young players in USA too. I think a lot of players don't realize that yet, and I'm talking about young in the US, like maybe like 20s, in the 20s range of players that that haven't had an experience yet, and I hope it, they're totally smooth for their whole life for sure. But I mean, in my experience, from what
Yeah,
I've seen, it just doesn't happen just
I
because you
hope so
want it
too.
to. It doesn't happen because you want it to. You actually have to put in the work to make sure we can keep playing like this and keep playing smoothly and as best as we can. Because if not, the body's just gonna, you know, the body's not gonna do the adaptation because if you don't send it the stimulus. And yeah, Lyndon, I guess I just want to ask you after talking about all that, what is so yeah, it sounds like your belief in yourself, belief in God, and your faith, and also the actual actions of doing stuff, right? Like the first comes
Yeah.
belief, and then power, and then which motivates the actions of you actually getting stuff done. What are some, which sounds like your work and yourself physically really has helped us tremendously up until this point. I mean, I guess for people with knee problems, like what are some just like what are some basic things that helped you? If you could explain just a couple basic things. I don't. It's not like you need to get super in depth, but just like some couple basic uh points of direction here.
No, I got you. Some things that I'd say if you're experiencing knee pain, especially from kendama, or you're feeling like it's hindering your kendama, two things I would suggest looking at are maybe hip flexors, seeing how tight they are, and if
Mm,
they need to be strengthened and lengthened a little bit, stretch them out, and but yeah, I mean, like, because that's one thing I found a lot was like it's really not your like 9 times out of 10 it's not actually your knees, it's just you're feeling it, the pain in your knee, but you're tight somewhere. Uh,
mm-hmm.
but two good things I think you could do that I do these almost every single leg day or almost every warm up. Backwards walking,
Mm,
uh, and I would suggest adding weight. I think it's a little bit better, just in my opinion, than just doing it on a dead treadmill or outside. But I'm sure you could just do it as well. But like try and getting a sled with some weight and
mm-hmm.
just doing 5 minutes of that, walking backwards. That alone every day for just 5 to 10 minutes, I know you can agree. You'll feel like a new person. Your knees will feel better. It'll translate and make other exercise easier. You're gonna get blood flow feeling on the back of your
Mm,
legs, and maybe some of that pain will actually start to like break up, or you'll actually feel a little looser.
mm-hmm.
But then for hip flexors, I'd say try and get like a little kettlebell, something water bottle, something this tall, put it in front of you on a bench, on a raised block, something, and you kind of just take like a resistance band, you'll pull it over your head,
Yeah.
and then you'll basically just put your leg, and you're kind of gonna like lift over every kind of back and forth. Your foot never
Oh,
hits the
nice.
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just kind of flosses out the hip flexor, works it, and this isolates your hip flexor because you got these up here,
Mm-hmm.
focusing your upper half up there, and like that's one that's really helped me. Like when you feel things that you're not used to feeling, but it's not a painful, you're like, whoa, kind of isolating some of that muscle group that will make you better at kendama, man. Like you'll
Yeah.
bend quicker, you'll feel better, and those two, I think anyone with knee pain, try those out.
Yeah.
Try stretching out the hip flexor, backwards
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in full agreement there. I love those tips. And backwards walking, if you don't have a gym with a sled or anything, if you can find a hill, walk backwards up a hill. Maybe if you're a really
Yeah.
beginner, just start walking backwards in your room, back and forth. Something like
I think
this.
so, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just back on a flat level is a good
Yeah.
starting place too.
I would say for sure level it up too. Like what you said, 100% agreement. But yeah, start with whatever is available to you and then build and then yeah, become more resourceful from there. And yeah, I love what you said about the hip flexors too. I mean, I think that's a very uncommon thing to know. Strengthening, and then also I'm gonna add my own suggestion, lengthening with like a type of split squat in a way, and you can
Mm-hmm.
search all these movements in online. Movements to strengthen the hip flexor and also just a split squat for the hip flexors. It's really amazing. It also works on full knee bend too, which is obviously what we're trying to do in kendama all the time. The best players in kendama can go into full knee bend with complete ease. Like,
Yeah.
and I think the main thing on top of all of this, dude, I just want to highlight as well. It's like the reason why I think the reason that me and you are both alluding to of why this can help kendama play is because the last thing you the last thing us as players want to focus on when we're trying to really hard at kendama, we're really trying to land a trick is anything else but landing a trick. Like we don't want to
Yes.
focus on anything. Like if we're focusing on anything else, any discomfort, any uncomfortabilities, you know, pain in our leg, like think about it like this: if you're playing in a crowded room and you're playing like an elevator and there's like three people in there. It's not like you're gonna be going super hard because one, you don't have enough a lot of space, and two, it's like you're thinking about hitting the other people, right? It's like that. You're holding back a little bit. I like to think about that too. And like imagine now you have pain in your leg. And it's like, okay, well, I don't want to cause this pain. Your body's like, I don't want to cause this pain. I don't want to get into positions that cause this pain. And then you're hindering yourself. And then also you're not
Mm-hmm.
only hindering yourself like physically, but mentally too, because it's like your focus is split. So I think what me and Lyndon are alluding to here is getting rid of pain and actually strengthening yourself to do this. And the importance of this is so crucial because the more you get out of pain and actually strengthen your muscles and strengthen your tendons in your body, the more you can just focus purely on kendama, which helps a lot, a ton, especially as you get a little older and this stuff is a really a big thing. I mean, I used to not do anything for myself and treat my body like crap, and I was still fine. But it wasn't until I was 20, which was not it's not old, but it was just an accumulation of many years of treating my body like crap, where I started to feel stuff, and I was like, okay, I need to make a change, or I'm screwed. And so that was I think that's what me and
Yeah.
Lee really alluded
Yeah.
to. Hmm.
Yeah. I have the like literally the same realization of just like, man, I was saying I was 20 when my knee started here. I was like, dang, I'm 20. Yeah, definitely can't keep doing what I've been doing. Like it sucks. Like I only plan to get this way, but if nothing changes, you say it. I was like, nothing changes, I'm gonna be shafted. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, hopefully anybody can listen. If you're listening, feel free to reach out to Lyndon about his story about that further, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to help you and through challenges he's been through because he's been through a lot and he's overcome a lot. So anybody listening, feel free to reach out to him and me as well for sure. I've had my own struggles there. But yeah, Lyndon, I want to ask you too. You did. I just want to ask you. You've been playing for so long. I want to quickly touch on the main reason you play kendama today. You got sponsored 9 years ago. You've been playing for 10 years plus. How has the meaning of kendama for you evolved from when you first started playing to now? After all the experiences, all the travels you've been through, all the competitions you competed in, all of that.
man, it's changed in a lot of ways. I almost like if it didn't without three cups and a spike, I don't know how much these kendamas now are even like similar to what like you and I started on. As crazy as it sounds to say like I guess man, at this point, I don't know. I love the friends I've made along the way, but I love the perpetual challenge. I think that one thing that's similar is like you always have a chance to improve because it's you and your kendama and finding your level. So like there's always new tricks coming out. There's always new things to learn. It's just an added incentive that's always there. But maybe more like competitive and filming when you see like new people come along or you recognize people really talented or perhaps like more talented than yourself or you can feel that way or like you might just know that you can just admit it they're doing tricks that you're like dude they're doing it with ease. Wow. I think taking a step back because Instagram can make you like compare yourself to other players and I think somewhere in kendama that kind of was like something I noticed where I'm like man
Hmm.
I myself compare myself to other players where now I'm more like I don't know, man. I feel like I'm in a much healthier position where I see cool tricks. I'm like, dude, that's sick. And I try and push my levels the highest I can. And if it's not, like at a Ryoga Takuya level, I'm like, all right, it's fine. I'm not them. Like trying to, I'm 25. I played on Ozora with two finger strings. Like I learned some things and I'm unlearning things. And like, I'm just trying to be the best 25-year-old Lyndon and win competitions and be at my highest level. So like having that mindset. Whereas like, I think the first few years I was also I was pretty heavy on like comparing myself to other players or like didn't have that mindset. I was very much about like who's the best right now. It's all that matters. And it was like tossing up. I think like it was Stod for a year, then Bonds, then Nick, and like it was
Hmm.
all kind of interchangeable. Now I'm just like I don't. I wonder if you've had this too, because like the goal is to get kendama bigger and grow it.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's like encouraging to think outside of that initial like what pulled you in, and
Hmm.
you think outside of that and be like, okay, like we gotta change things massively because otherwise they'll be the same for a while. So if I want a new result, I have to shift my mind a little bit. And like honestly, I don't know. I just love that Kendama's given some structure and that like I'm rambling a little bit, but it gives structure and something to constantly improve at, and it's just always there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it goes without saying that the relationships that you've had in Kendama mean a lot to you, and obviously everything on Soul. But to hear a player who's been playing for as long as you have and talk about the perpetual challenge and talk about wanting to succeed and win and still highly achieve in Kendama at the competitive level, it's in the pro level. I think that's I want to highlight that because it's not often that you see players who've been playing for a decade plus, still talking about wanting to succeed in the ways that you're talking about succeeding. I think that drive, for whatever reason, kind of gets lost in players who have been playing for usually over a decade. And I think it's rare when people continue to have that. And
Thank
you
you,
did bring
man.
up a
Thank
good
you.
point. You did bring up a point that I actually definitely would love to talk to you about. And you said comparison to others, and I think this is a good conversation for everybody else to listen to as well. I was listening to something the other day. Not even the other day. It was literally last night. I was listening to something last night, and it was talking about the whole idea of comparing yourself to others and how if it's it was highlighted and saying like comparison is the thief of joy. But the person talking about
Mm.
it was saying like, oh yeah, I don't think that's true at all. I think comparison's great. It's just when judgment from yourself comes in, that's when it gets that's when it can change the mindset a little bit. And so what this person was referring to was she said, because I mean, at the end of the day, like comparison to other people, like let's just say this: if you didn't know, I'm trying to bring up an example of a trick you've you've done, or something. Well, let's just say this: like let's just say, if Tiblix didn't do 50 tap, or if Caden Weller didn't do 10 tap, then we would never know that it's possible.
Yeah.
We would never know that it's possible. And then of course when people do it, now people are like, "Oh, it's possible." And then you see other people breaking this record, breaking the record like this. But if it wasn't, you know, if these comparisons didn't happen, that I don't think we as Canal players or people in life would have standards to meet. Well, actually, so this is what the person was referring to. It's like, well, you don't know something's possible unless you see someone else do it, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm right here. How do I get there? And she was saying like
Yeah.
it's it's about the how you approach that comparison because the comparison to yourself. I mean, that's how a lot of people get really good. They're like, okay, what is this person doing? How do I need to beat them? What do I need to do in order to match their level and also surpass it? That's how a lot of Canal players, um, think. It's it's just and also the questions I just asked too. It's like, what questions are you asking yourself? What are you doing with that comparison? Like, are you just getting down in your head about it, or are you asking yourself questions to like about how you can even get to there? Like, what's the difference between you and that person, or you and them, and to get there? And this person was basically talking about how comparison is great in terms of pushing the game, pushing the boundaries of really any skill, but it's when the judgment aspect of, oh my God, getting down on yourself, judging yourself because you're not there yet, because you're not that person yet. You haven't done the achievement yet. That a lot of people decide to judge themselves and feel like crap because of it. But I want to talk to you about this because I mean you just brought it up, and also and I've also been in a comparison trap and judging myself in a negative way to other players is for sure, and a lot of players do that as well. And I guess I want to explain that concept to you. And is anything resonating with you with what I just said? What are your thoughts on what I just said?
I like what you said, man. I like what you said. You hit a lot of good points, and it's some of it does resonate. I get that what that guy's saying because like when something's been done, then you have a direct line of like, okay, this is the work that's left to do to get to that point. Whereas like something's never been done before, you're blindly like you could be a millimeter away or you could be a long way away from making it happen. So I get that, and it does. It helps. That is like that's literally growth, right? You build like
Mm-hmm.
a ladder that climbs. Man, it is pretty cool. Yeah, I guess just the way Instagram is structured, it's hard probably not to.
Mm,
It'd be very difficult if you spend a lot of time on Instagram, in my opinion, to not allow judgment to creep in.
right.
Like, I think you got to be like post your trick and hop off, or like hop on and like look at some tricks, some people that you know are like landing bangers. Because otherwise, I don't know. Just that's just from my perspective. Because like what else you're gonna do? You're gonna comment. You're gonna start looking. Your mind's gonna wander a little bit. Oh, so the comment like, oh, I landed this trick in 3 minutes, and you're like, oh, that's a hard trick. 3 minutes. Let me try that. You try it. Takes you 10 minutes. You only get halfway through. You know, like little stuff where you're like,
Mm,
just allows little things to creep in. Where I guess that's a little different than like filming a full YouTube video, or like so like putting something like that where like I don't know. Social media is an interesting tool for everything, but I guess kendama in particular, where it like adds a lot, but maybe also not everything it adds is amazing. But a lot of
mm.
it adds a lot of amazing stuff, and maybe some of the comparison, the judgment, like you said, because the comparison's not bad per se, but when you're judging yourself for being like negative towards yourself because of the comparison, that's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know, man. Those are some interesting points you touched on, dude.
What are some of your so you mentioned you used to be in that kind of headspace of you were comparing yourself a lot of other players like what who's the best right now
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
all this stuff and it sounds like it was a little it sounds like it was a little more negative headspace than the headspace you're in right now. What for you, how did you kind of evolve to the headspace you're in right now? It's kind of like more positive taking and I think the main difference, Lynn, that I'm hearing from you right now is that instead of looking at players' tricks and thinking like, oh my God, like I need to do this, 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 and getting stressed and being like, man, I have to, and saying to yourself, like, I literally have to, I need to get better, or something like this. It sounds like right now the main difference, dude, is that you see other people's clips and you just are get inspired. You get inspired,
Yeah.
man, and I think that's really a choice. I think that's really a choice, and I think those are two drastically different mindset points. Like you've obviously done something to get to where you are right now with that. What was it? Can you pinpoint anything for you, or was it just some naturally thing that naturally happened over time? What was it for you?
It was coming back from it was like when the sessions from kind of post injury like 2023. I started having some really good kendama sessions where like I'd finish up an hour or two like pain free and actually kind of played kendama. I just had a feeling of like appreciation because it had been so long since I had a session like that, like almost like probably since 2019. I had like a legit like pain free 2 hour
Mm,
session. Next morning felt fine, felt good. That I was just so appreciative to have it. Where I was like, dang. So I took this feeling for granted for like 7 years, almost like 2012 to 2019. It's like for 7 years, I just took this for granted. I was over there like, because yeah, comparing myself to all these people, that doesn't matter. All that matters is like having fun playing Konami. So I think coming back from the injury and being able to just like have a sense of a true appreciation, just to actually play and being like, even if it's like a still flip, just a single still flip, something that like old Lyndon would have been like, oh, it's just a single. It's not even a double or triple. Like it's an easy trick. I'm like, dude, no, there were times where I like it would hurt to do a stilt flip. So now every single trick I'm landing, it's like I'm just like very happy. It's like almost like gone back to the early Konami days where I'm just so stoked that that's all that matters. That's all that like I can even worry about is me playing Kendama. It's can't really focus on what other people are doing. That was the
hmm
main. That's like the main thing I could think of. Maybe some people, probably some people I've met along the way, as well.
Yeah, Leonard, it just sounds like you found a lot more joy and pleasure in just being in the game of Kendama.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
being
yeah,
in
yeah,
the game, taking all
yeah.
the expectations and results and achievements away from, Kendama in itself, all the things within it, just being in the game, being able to play. You found a lot of joy in that and realized I think you actualized all the joy that you kind of were, yeah, exactly, you said, kind of taking for granted prior, which is I think really powerful, dude, because I think it's a goal. It's really cool because I think that honestly is a huge step for, and I would say almost necessary step for playing Kanama for life. For playing Kanama for life, and I think a lot of players I mean, because I mean, I don't know, dude. It's we'll see. I mean, how long can a player really play at the top at the highest level consistently, super hard for a long time? You know, I'm just saying this completely unrelated to your scenario. I'm just saying like hypothetically, just like how long can a person do this for? You know, in other sports, sometimes it can be 20 years, sometimes like 30 years, I think. But if the goal is to play kendama for life, I think this realization has to happen at some point, or no, not the realization, but this
Yeah.
kind of this mindset shift, this mindset, this state of mind. I think it has to. I think it'll really help a player for who wants to play for life, and I think that what I'm saying is I think a lot of players will go through that same mindset shift at one point or another. It just so happens that you've been able to find it early, and I'm not saying at all that you've moved on from competing at a high level because you clearly haven't. You're still in the game. I'm just saying that I think you've actually been able to reach that state of mind earlier than most players are going to reach it. You know, which I think is really cool. And I think it opens up. I think it just allows for a lot more um, I guess happiness with kendama because I think a lot of
Yeah.
people, again, as you said, they just get a little worked up for these trivial these micro things that actually are microscopic in the grand scheme of things. I'm not saying challenge yourself is bad. I'm just saying, I think yeah, we've both seen a lot of people mentally just be like, oh my God, like this is I suck or whatever, and and it's just not the case, but it's their perception. So I think, yeah, Lennon, a big thing for you that I've realized is like, yeah, from what you're saying is that you just found joy and pleasure in being in the game.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Well, being in the game, and you're right, because it allowed me to enjoy tricks. Like, as if I'm playing kendama again, and I can then like tricks that were, I felt like beyond my understanding, or like I like look at, I'm like, dude, I, because there was a time where I was like getting this almost like an old head mentality where it's like newer style tricks. I'm like, oh, dude, that's just, I could never land those. I don't even understand. I'm not even going to try to understand
Mm,
because it's hard. And then I tried to understand some of these tricks. You try them, you learn them, even if you just the singles, or if you just attempt them, you're like, dang, this is really hard. Now, when you're watching the clip, you kind of can follow it a little more and you can appreciate the new level of difficulty that's out there. And then you can be like, all right, like now you know how to go after it. Now you're not just, you have tools to work towards. You're not just going and trying to like fix something without any tools, like then you'll get frustrated. But if you establish a couple tools in the shed, it'll make it easier to work for at least.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm Yeah, dude. Beautiful. Um, let's talk about let's talk about competition. Competition mentality. You did
Yeah.
mention earlier you were like, okay, I'm still have big goals for myself. I still want to achieve high kendama. What is what is the mentality of yourself going into competitions? And you did mention that your mindset towards playing kendama in general has changed just now with the comparison and kind of the state of mind now. Has that been the case too with competition as well in the past overall seven years, something like this?
I think I'm finding a more consistent mindset
Hmm
with competing. Like, as I've reached like the more appreciative mindset. In the first like 7 years, nah, man, it every competition felt different. Like, I'd have great results sometimes, and I would do the same prep, have a bad result the next time. Then I wouldn't prepare, and I'd like get a podium. Then I wouldn't prepare, and I'd get out first round. It took me like a long time to find a somewhat consistent like routine and mindset.
Mm,
But the last few have definitely just been, yeah, you say appreciating the opportunity, because it's unreal that we're competing professionally for kendama. Like, you do it enough from the time you're 16. Yeah, I guess like kind of, dude, you hit on the first point, like how many people still want to compete after 10 years? Well, dude, most people have been playing for 10 years, have won something, right? Like,
mm,
so I got to settle down that frustration of like, I don't know, there's no expectation that you should win something just because you've been doing a long time. But that can kind of happen when you start at 16. So it's like removing that and being like, dude, this is an absolute blessing. You get to compete, opportunity against other really good people. Some people will go their whole lives and never get that in anything. So that's like square number one. So check off the box. You're already winning. Then after that, give your best bet. Don't quit. Try and land every trick. Even if it's 2-0, 4-0, whatever, until you lose the last point, it's not over. So keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I try to care less. I feel like, dude, I just try to actually care less about anything besides like landing that trick. I don't care about who I'm facing or like what I'm going for. Like even I spent a lot of time prepping for KWC this past summer. Did not achieve my goal. Kind of actually like I came somewhat close, but really didn't come close to doing it. Kind of botched is a great way to say it. But it's like I don't. It's frustrating. But I'm now just thinking about my next opportunity. You know what I mean? Like ATL is coming up. That's where my mind is at. And okay, I have a goal here. I want to win, and like that's gonna be my goal. And then until that competition is over, I'll move on to this next opportunity. And because who knows? Like you're saying, it's who knows when this will change forever. Who knows when something will come up and you don't get to compete and play kendama and at this level, or like some of the responsibility comes along. You got to take care of family or like whatever. We're like very lucky to be doing what we're doing. We're so new to it that I think a lot of people have like it's easy to overlook. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
that's like kind of what the biggest shift for me is when I go to competition now. I'm like, dude, especially seeing. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but seeing young kids or younger generation players that are just filthy, like that are
Yeah.
just like seeing some of the young kids that are ripping and like obviously the tricks are scaled up now. You could call it inflation. But like thinking back to when like thinking back to like 2015, 16, 17 when like we're kind of competing and like I don't really say I was ever in the same caliber as like you or Nick or some of the other people. But like landing tricks that were kind of like, dang, this has never been done before. Seeing that now firsthand is like it's kind of cool in a way. It's inspiring because you realize we're not them, right? There's always be younger shredder up and comers, but
Mm-hmm.
we're us and we're 12-year veterans with opportunities of like, well, who's to say a 12-year veteran can't win the biggest competition? Who's to say a 12-year veteran can't keep improving? No one's really pushed those boundaries. So it's like a really cool mindset there. You know what I mean? You don't have to just quit because there's young kids that come in that are better than you. Like stay and
Yeah.
fight. Stay and fight. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Man, I love that. I love that perspective, dude. It just highlights again your whole mindset of just being present and enjoying playing the game, being in the game. And I think what you just said highlights that even more. And I agree with you. This opportunity that we get to have to play against the young players who, are grinding objectively more than us. I mean, per not just
Yeah.
objectively per week. I mean, how many hours are they putting in versus us? I mean,
Factually.
it's almost
Yeah.
always going to be them. 99% of the time, it's going to
That's
be these players.
factually. Yeah.
And to have the opportunity to still compete against these guys and to prove ourselves, continue to prove ourselves, against these guys, and also be able to be role models and people of inspiration for some of these players because we are blessed also to be in positions of inspiration and positions of I don't know the word I'm blanking on the word right now, but beating these types of players for young kids to look up to. I know we both have we are both are in positions of that too, and to compete against these guys. Some of the kids, it's they're looking forward to it just as much as us, if not more, because they get to play people they've looked up to for so long or they've known for so long, and now we're both competing on the same stage. It's so cool for both parties.
Yeah.
And I like what you said too about seeing the next generation kind of like see them grind a trick, and it's like wow, it's really cool to see that this game's like so evolving, and it's like yeah, like we are not them anymore. We're not that age anymore. But it's so cool to think that like, okay, wow, it's almost like yes, the game will always progress and I don't know, dude, I don't know about you, dude, but like when I was 15, 16, 17, not one time that I think there was going to be that like our generation was going to be like, surpassed in skill. Not one time. I wasn't thinking about
Right.
the future. I was just
No,
thinking
you're
about
not thinking
now.
that far
And I'm
ahead.
like, and I'm
Yeah.
like 15, 16 years old. I'm like, dude, the players I'm coming up with right now. I mean, this is insane. Like everybody's getting really good. And the last thing I'm thinking about is of a 13-year-old kid, Japanese, whose name's Ryoga. literally on a level beyond pretty much everybody in the entire planet except for one other kid who's also a teenager. The last thing I'm thinking
Yeah,
about is having these little kids be so much far better than our generation, the previous generation before them, that it's almost incomparable. It is incomparable. Last thing I am
it
thinking
is.
about is
In a
that.
way, it is. Yeah,
The last thing I'm thinking about is that. But I think it's a no, it is comparable. I'm sorry, but it's just like it's so cool how the game just continues to progress on this level and just to be there, be present in the game to see it. Because a lot of players don't, they don't never. A lot of players have
yeah,
dropped off to not see that, to not appreciate that, and been in the positions that we're in to actually play hard when we're young. So right now, still in the game, still grinding, but to see the evolution of the game from a decade ago. A lot of players have
yeah.
dropped
It's
off
something.
before that.
It's special. It's very special. It's something pure. Like even outside of just kendama, there's something very pure about. I'm trying to think of this. It's almost just like pure creation of something. Like at its simplest form. It's literally you get to see it. You created tricks, then people come in, they build on that, and they create new things that are like it's I don't know. It's like a front row seat to seeing evolution. I guess the best way to describe it. Kendama skills, players, baseline tricks, like tricks that were difficult 10 years ago are now borderline beginner tricks. Like that's actually insane to think about. Say that out loud. Like a hard
Yeah,
level, an advanced trick, like a lunar flip in 2012. A lunar flip was a hard trick, and now it's like on a beginner side of things. Like that's beautiful. Like you don't always get to be that close to seeing things change. Usually it's not that quick of a like progression. It takes years and years. So that's how
yeah,
you know you're doing something special. You're involved in something changing and growing.
yeah. It's amazing to be along here for the ride and just witness too, and not just witness, but be a part of it. Be
Yeah,
actively a
y'all,
part of it as well.
dude, you're leading. You guys are leading some of the charge. I feel like you and Nick, in terms of doing, yeah, new stuff. Just new stuff that can grow, like pushing the limits of what a Konami player can do, like a pro Konami
Mm,
player. Because ask every pro, what's their dream? Play full time, be a full time Konami player.
yeah,
Got to change things to get there, make it a
totally,
viable option. You know?
totally, dude. 100%. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a huge. That's like
Yeah,
I said on my story the other day. Someone asked me like, what would be like the main thing you could wish to see happen to Kanama overnight? And I said, well, to put it very simply, I mean, I literally said exactly what you just said. Like, yeah, if people who truly love Kanama, pro players right now who truly love Kanama could play full time, I'd love to see that happen because that means a lot of other things happen. And but then I also said, obviously, if it happened
yeah.
overnight, I don't know. Would we also have the knowledge of all the foundation that was built in order to achieve that? I don't know if we would. That came with it for sure. But I think if it happened overnight, I still think Kanon would be honestly screwed a little bit. But I think I acknowledge that foundation has to be laid. I think I acknowledge that work has to be put in before obviously
You
that point.
can't, yeah,
Yeah. You
you
know,
can't
um,
overlook that.
yeah. But yeah, dude. I think also I want to touch on. We did touch on a little bit. You know, in your whole. Let's talk about comp a little more specifically. So your preparation for comp, um, kind of what your recent experiences are in comp. Let's talk about KWC. So
Yeah.
talk to me about the level of preparation that you put in, kind of like your journey towards the comp, how the comp felt, your results, and then we can talk about the kind of like the lessons learned. So first off, let's talk about the preparation. What type of preparation are you putting in for this type of for this competition?
I'd say like pretty heavy, moderate to heavy. Like more it was a lot of play. It was probably like 3 to 5 hours a day for 2 full months, basically. Almost
Mm-hmm.
almost a little more than 2 full months.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, like a mid May. Mid May, I think I started. I talked with you and Nick and kind of got like a good schedule planned out for my day to make time for KVC practice
Mm-hmm.
and then still get Kanama in. But I mean, 3 to 5 hours every day. Did not miss a day.
Yeah.
Uh, and making sure tricks were honed, reps, lots of repetitions,
Yeah.
lots of repetitions. So it was lots of preparation.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of hours put in. Yeah, you did talk about that. You were playing you're having two kendama sessions per day. So you'd like
Yeah,
wake up, go to the gym, kendama, go to work, come back, kendama, like, and that was kind of like how the
yeah,
kendama sessions worked out.
yeah. Eat, go to sleep.
Um, yeah, and also so you get to the comp, this preparation that you put in, and then you mentioned earlier that you did not reach your goal,
Yeah,
and I think like just to I think a lesson that I mean I'm curious to I've always said this, but I'm curious to know your perspective on it and kind of like the lessons you've learned particularly from KWC because is that practice I don't think any amount of practice like has any guarantee on
yeah.
on a specific result. And I've always said that. And I don't think it guarantees anything. I still recommend practicing people, but I don't think it guarantees anything. And your goal was to qualify for finals and that didn't happen this year. And you talked about looking forward to the next opportunity. Was that what other lessons, I guess, in terms of preparation and mentality or stuff like this did you learn from this experience, this most recent experience in your competitive journey?
Mm. Man, I learned a few things, kendama specifics, and then just life things.
Mm,
Uh, I think the beautiful thing, kendama specifically, I think it's just been a while since I had been a cup, and it was good to just know where kind of what you were saying about having that comparison. It was good to know where the level is at. I think
mm,
that was one thing leading up to KBC that I kind of was like out of the loop with, just because I've been to like NACO and battle and kind of plugged in with that, but I haven't really. I wasn't like tapped into the core of kendama and being like, this is where it's at. When you know where it's there, like you know where it's at, you know where your skill net skills needs to be, you know how you need to be practicing and all that. And so that was refreshing to see how many kids, because like I actually wouldn't even have qualified if I full marked with a wild card. Yeah, but like if I hit my 89 points, that wasn't actually enough to get in safely. And like
mm.
going there, my mindset, I was like, 89 will get me in. So
Yeah.
that was a good shock of like, dang, they kept calling 90s. I remember I was just like, oh man, I was way off. Like there's some reevaluating here to do.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I got very close to a qualifying score. And I just, it doesn't take away the work I put in, the prep I put in.
Mm-hmm.
Execution faltered a little bit at the end. I needed one more trick to get the last wild card spot. Uh, it was disappointing for a little bit. You put it on that time, but I kind of had what you were saying. Like I knew going in that practice doesn't guarantee anything. Like it just helps prepare you. Doesn't hand like you still have to do the job in the moment. So like I think that's a good idea is learning how to execute and learning how to be more in the moment, making decisions. I think I could tweak my run a little bit.
Mm.
So being more flexible, I think that's one thing I picked up is being able to be like very disciplined in practice, but when it comes to the final thing, being flexible to change tiny things, maybe not go off schedule of what you've been planning for, but
Right.
like, hey, this isn't working. I'm noticing it's not working. It was working during prep, all my practice sessions, but right now it's not working. Maybe I tweak this trick.
Yeah.
Uh, Josh Kim, Josh Kim, Sweets player, Sweets shredder. He killed it, as you know, top 10 at KBC. He put a qualifying trick that day because one of his tricks that he practiced all summer, it just wasn't clicking. Like the spike tap tap level 9.
Mm.
Uh, he kind of was like, dude, it's not clicking. I'm not going to put it in. Like being able to make that kind of last minute decision, that's
Mm-hmm.
something I learned. Like, and I think Nick did something similar. I think he took a trick out or like swapped like very last minute just to like solidify. And I
Mm.
think there's a couple tricks I could have done that on. So
Mm.
good learning opportunity for sure.
Yeah, I think what you just said is really really cool because it's actually really tough to I don't think you would have gotten learned that unless you actually went to the com and experienced it yourself and had this experience because it is tough what you said like learning to be flexible. It sounds so simple, but it's so tough if you haven't had the opportunity to really exercise that because when you do practice the same thing over and over and over again the more it gets ingrained and ingrained and ingrained and ingrained, and the more your mind's like and that where it kind of gets to like, all right, these are my tricks. I'm doing these tricks no matter what. Like if you're putting in hours a day on this, it's harder to you're becoming more and more attached to these types of these tricks per day, and being able to make
Yeah.
those last minute decisions, like you said, I mean, you recognize it probably would have helped you and it helped other players. And I know a lot of people who made last minute switches. I know a lot of players. It wasn't just Josh Kim. Like I know a lot of players,
Yeah.
especially some Japanese players who made those last minute switches because they were kind of hearing like, oh wow, everybody has 90 points. I'm going to up my trick because on the last day because I want to get in, and some people prevailed and some people didn't still even when they made the last minute switches. But I think what you're talking about here is like not being married to the uh, the routine that you have put in, or not being married to any type of specific result or action that you've had prior. I mean, learning to really be present in the day of, take the
Hmm.
information from the day of, and really being conscious of how to apply that into and seeing if applying that to your practice or your preparation that during that day of is going to be beneficial to you or not. I think that's what you're talking about here, and I think that's a really nice lesson to learn because you can apply that to not just KWBC but really open style to open and freestyle. These more common types of competition that people are entering. I think you can really apply that in these style of comps, whether it be tweaking how you practice the day of for open, whether it be a trick you're really dialed on usually, or maybe now it's not feeling that good, maybe hyper focusing on that, or maybe making the decision to not practice at all and forego practicing a trick for the comp and just utilizing that extra time to hone in on tricks that you've already got semi down to make
Yeah.
them 100% down. And for freestyle too, it's like maybe you're planning on doing a certain type of trick and really feeling your runs out and nothing's and that trick isn't really happening. And even though it's something you're confident with, if it's not clicking that day, then learning to make the switch and kind of let go and let yourself not be married to the idea of that you're maybe only sticking with this trick because you're this type of player. And you're like, okay, I'm flexible. I have way more options and being okay to roll with that. I think that's a great lesson because it's super applicable to multiple comp styles.
100%, dude. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I think you know, Lyndon, what is your favorite style comp?
Dude, probably KBC style, honestly. I didn't
Hmm.
get the result I wanted, but I love the idea of just it's just you versus a clock for 3 minutes. I know it's like a niche style, but like KBC qualifying style is like my favorite. And
Yeah.
then probably open after that. Open is more I don't
Hmm.
know. I guess I like having something where you can prepare for it and just practice that trick versus freestyle is more you kind of just got to feel it, turn it on in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And let's switch to talk about open for a second here. You've entered a lot of open competitions, like many, many open competitions in your life, and open is usually everybody's first style competition that they enter. For those, I mean, everybody listening, people know, Canal players, open division. Lennon, what are some tips that have helped you in your experience in open division in terms of preparation, maybe day of competing, all of this?
Open division, I would say that's like out of any comp we've talked about like practice and not obviously it doesn't just because you do something doesn't guarantee a result. Open out of all competitions, I would say is like you get out what you put in.
Mm,
9 times out of 10, the winner prevails because they were prepared with those tricks. Like really, really spend time on the trick list. Get comfortable with the tricks you're not comfortable with. Try and it's cliche. It's like a lot of cliches, but try and practice like you're going to compete. And maybe someone listening hasn't competed before. They're wanting to. When I say that, I just mean like when you're going through the tricks, try and recognize how you're feeling. Like, what are you focusing on when you're landing that trick? And you're landing it? I like to land tricks 3 times in a row, 5 times in a row, whatever it is when I'm practicing them, because that's kind of like an ideal open round, right? You land it every time
hmm.
instead of focusing on just the number. Okay, I landed it once, I landed it twice, I landed it 3 times. What about you is clicking to make that trick consistently work? Because if you find that, then when you're competing, you can kind of tap back into the okay, I just got to be light on this, or like a little bit like the muscle memory is there. It just kind of you can guide a little bit. But if you're practicing and you're kind of just mindlessly like, all right, I landed this trick, on to the next one, I landed this trick. I just feel like being conscious of some of that helps. Practicing though in general, like you want to be prepared for open comp, and just remembering it's about one trick at a time. Those
Mm-hmm.
are keys. One trick at a time. Your opponent actually like doesn't. It's crazy to think about your opponent. Like you could win an open division contest never thinking about your opponent or never seeing your opponent's tricks. Like you could turn around and if you never miss, you'll win. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like so that's what you got to focus on is you in your attempt and like blocking. Like that's the tough part, blocking out that other stuff. I'm saying all this. Like I still haven't won anything. I've got a lot of podiums, but like I'm still chasing the first win. But in my experience, that's kind of helped me make some deeper runs or make it to a top 3 or top 2 or a top 8, like a single limb comp, like just build that muscle memory. Because when those nerves hit on stage, you really want to have some muscle memory to lean on. Like you want to be able to lean on that, and then your confidence will come back once you kind of like got a couple tricks flowing. Then you loosen up, you're feeling good. Like have a foundation to build on.
Yeah. I really like what you said about being conscious of your about how you're feeling during practice and
Hmm.
practicing like you're competing. And yeah, for those people who are listening who haven't competed yet, it's that's going to be tough to really know what that feels like.
Yeah.
My best advice for that would be just to get yourself to a competition as soon as possible. So you can actually now have a reference point because it's impossible if you don't. I would just say I am in total agreement of that because it's so easy to even get really consistent on these open tricks by yourself, and it's really easy to go through the motions doing tricks, especially ones that you think you already have down. You're like, all right, this is easy. I'm already good on this. I have to really, focus on my harder ones because that's on the harder ones. That's the time you are really focusing, like hard. But it's so easy to just go through the motions and kind of just do tricks nonchalantly. When they're tricks, you have already like 8 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10. Um, but it's another level when you bring yourself to that conscious point of, okay, you imagine there's someone in front of you, you imagine the stakes, like, okay, if I miss, then the person gets the point. That turns any single trick in practice into something very, very intense. And, you know, combining that with your strategy of getting tricks 3 times in a row, which I also really like, because if you can prove to yourself that you get tricks 3 times in a row, then I mean, you're setting yourself up that much better for an open division to where the maximum times you have to get a trick in a row is 3 times. Then you move on to a different trick. I think actually putting that consciousness in place, it's very mentally. It actually is like in my experience, dude. I don't know about you, but it's mentally. It's definitely mentally draining to run both of those practice methods at the same time. To where it's like you're not only
Yeah.
trying to get things 3 times in a row, which is already pretty difficult, honestly, but you're also doing 3 times in a row with the stimulative practice of yourself, the visualization that there are a lot of stakes on the line, and that if you miss a trick, then you lose a point. That those two in combination are it's actually for me it's mentally draining. But I think that's the type of practice that is really going to heighten you because you touched on it. You said you started talking about the little things. You said like I'm gonna have to go lighter here. I'm gonna have to touch the can here. I'm gonna have to juggle it like this. It's all about finding those minute. For me, dude, the things you touched on. It's all about finding those minute differences that you can make. Those little tweaks to really bring your proficiency of the trick that much forward, like that much higher, just 1 to 2% higher. All those little things, breaking down each trick piece by piece, and figure out what doesn't work for you, which is super important, and also figuring out what works for you on these tricks. And then and only then are you really going to be able to say confidently that you've done everything to find how consistent you can be during a trick. So I really like
Hmm.
all the stuff you just said about that because I think it really delves deep into more specifics of preparation. Because a lot of people just like run through the tricks and like, all right, yeah, I can do these tricks like nonchalantly, and but the winners they not only usually I'm not gonna say all the time because Alex Mitchell wins without even practicing. I don't know how it's possible, but I don't question anymore. I just accept it. Uh, but usually the winners are practicing a ton, but they're also thinking about this process of doing the tricks a lot. So which is so true. I mean, the winners of any comp, more often than not, they're going to be the ones who put the most work in, or up there with people who put the most work in. So I think it's really important. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
hmm And then what? Tell me about your recent trip to Japan, dude. It's your first time back in a while.
yeah. First time back in 5 years. Things have changed.
Yeah. How long was the trip? Where'd you go, and what were some big takeaways from this whole experience? You know, you saw a lot of the Soul team. That was huge.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was probably there for about 11 or 12 days. Uh, Flew out there with Alex Mitchell, so it was good. Didn't fly solo. Not the end of the world to fly solo, but it's nice to have a buddy on a trip like that. It's a long flight. You don't want to be twiddling your thumb the whole time. I think the biggest soul team I've been a part of in Japan in my 3 times going, like Fat Squad, just felt like 6 or 7. I think 6 USA players, 6 Japan players, maybe 7 Japan players. It was deep. It was deep. Saw a little bit of Tokyo. Spent some time in Osaka. Gino Gaja, if you don't know him,
Mhm.
it was his first time in Japan, and he was like the sole guy who hadn't been before. So he was like his energy was just contagious of just how stoked he was on everything because Japan is a magical place. It feels
Mhm.
like if you have like your first time going, you don't forget that feeling. You're like, dang, this is crazy. So it was awesome, man. Like it was. I think it might the best time I've been in Japan
Yeah.
outside of the actual comp. Amazing time.
Yeah. Where would you
Yeah,
rank that in your terms of your Kendama trips in general? Would you say it's pretty up there?
yeah. I would say that's gonna go top five. That was top five.
Top five. Okay.
Yeah, that
What's
was a
number
really
one?
good Japan trip. Ooh, I think
Such a hard question.
number one for the Dama trips would be I went on a Parks and Rec tour, like
Oh.
2022, and it's like just because you got to see so many national parks and beauty, like true just natural beauty, that's up there. But then also, man, yeah, that's a tough question because like so many competitions are so good. Some of the old MKO, like my first MKO, where I think a young man by the name of Zach Gallagher, I think he might have won the whole competition. He
Oh, that
might
was
have
your
been a
first one?
champion.
Oh yeah.
And 2015, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like that. I remember that's in my top five just because that was the first real huge competition I'd been to,
Yep.
and to see someone like win a trophy that big, to be in the Mall of America, 2 day competition, cutthroat, like it's
Yep.
deep.
Yeah. The competition
Uh,
was really intense. I remember the MKOs
yeah,
particularly being like super intense. Uh,
single elimination.
yeah.
It became a 3 day event by like 2016 or 17. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you. But yeah, this
Yeah.
this Japan trip was awesome, man. Hey, dude, I got to see you and Nick in Osaka for a little bit.
That was
Got to
sick.
catch up briefly. That was really cool,
Yeah.
just to see you guys, and yeah, just a great time. Let's always get out there.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, do you plan on going back again?
Yeah, this summer. We got to get into the finals, baby. We got to
Let's
qualify for the
go.
World Cup. That's
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
And what would you say for people who haven't been to Japan and I would say are on the fence? I think everybody would go if they could. You know, everybody would go. But you know, what would you say is a great part about going to the World Cup that for players who haven't gone yet? What would you say is a big, amazing thing about it? Like your top one thing, big takeaway as a competitor or as a canal player in general.
Hmm. Well, there's just something for everyone. Like if you like the competitive side, you're going to see the best tricks live in person, the best players live in person, the most consistent level of Kanama. If you don't really care about that, but you like seshing, you're going to meet more people here than probably any other competition. You're going to meet so many people that maybe you've seen them online or you've heard of them or you've just seen some of their tricks. You'll get to meet them and see them in person. There's just the food is good. Like you're gonna experience some fantastic food and drinks.
Mm-hmm.
There's some kind of magical air about it being in the birthplace of kendama, like being in Hatsukaichi. There's something different about the way they look at kendamas, or even just the average citizen, if you start playing kendama, like they just kind of take the time to stop and observe you. Whereas like here in the States, you're kind of getting like no one's gonna stop and being like, "Wow, that's really cool. You're very good at that." You know, they're kind of just gonna keep going. But I, if you're on the fence, man, go. If you're on the fence, go. Do it.
Yeah.
My friend from Georgia, Nick Dodenhoff, took his wife, his brother-in-law, and his baby.
Took his kid.
Yeah, his baby, like less than a year old baby.
Yep.
And none of them had gone before, and they all were like, "This is one of the best trips we've ever been on." It's it's just worth it, man. Especially if you love kendama, it's a bucket list trip. You just see so much culture. You get to see so much. I don't think there's a competition that's so internationally involved. So many different nations.
Well, I mean, actually, EKC is definitely more.
Uh,
But
yeah, I haven't been out there yet. That's fair. Shout out to you.
but obviously the second most
Yeah.
represented competition is KWC for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
But there, I mean, yeah, there's just so many different countries at EKC. But yeah, KWC is a lot. I mean, for being in Japan, there's a lot of representation there because it's a long trip for everybody outside of Asia, and there's some pretty good representation outside of Asia. But yeah, I think everybody, I would agree with Lyndon on that. I mean, getting to getting able to be out there in Japan really makes your experience as a Canal player more real. You know, it makes the whole community feel way more real because you may realize that there are other players in the States. You may realize that there are other players in, North America if you're listening to this, or Europe. But to actually go to Asia and see all the Japanese players and all the players from Asia too, to meet up and have everybody, and actually not only see a couple of Japanese players, but literally hundreds upon hundreds of Japanese players there. I mean, it's massive, and then I think it really expands the worldview on kendama. And yeah, again, because of all of that, makes it more real. It's like, wow, this really is a worldwide sport. This is a worldwide thing that people play all over the world every single day. One last thing I want to cover before we get into the answering questions are your future goals going forward as a player. You did mention you might get wanting to make the KWC finals next year, but do you have anything else too that you want on top of that?
Yeah. I want to make finals next year. I would like to. I want to land one never been done before, like this year. I haven't landed at NBD in a while, and I feel like I could do one now. I think I can. That's just a good like non-competitive filming and pushing personally. Like, what can I create conceptually that's cool? Can add stuff. Just want to compete well, honestly, man. I want to show up to every competition I go to prepared, and then sponsoring. I'm personally trying to sponsor like 5 events this year. Uh, just like as a lower tier sponsor, just like nothing crazy, like bronze kind of, but just throw like a couple $100 or whatever it is prizes
Mm-hmm.
to some other events. I think I did a couple. I did one of the pop swag that's coming up, and then Nonoka's event she's hosting. It's like one of those Kanoichi
Yep.
like girls events. Probably ATLO. Probably not Nako. I got a feeling the bronze sponsorship on Nako is still probably a little fatty. So, but just it's like a new thing I've been doing. I want to give back in some ways.
Yeah.
So a little sponsorship here and there.
Yeah, I did notice that for Pop Swag. I noticed your name on the sponsorship. I was like, oh, Lyndon.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, Lyndon Whalen. He's not coming, but he's a sponsor. Okay, like,
Literally, yeah. Not
cool.
maybe one day I'll be out there, but sponsor. Hope it's a good time for everyone there.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I like that goal. It's a great measurable way to get back to measure how much you're giving back to the community events wise. I mean, obviously you can do it in a ton of other ways, but this is a good measurable way. It's like, all right, I'm getting my name, getting some sponsor action on events that are at least 5 different events that are pushing the game forward. Which is
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah,
I haven't heard anybody talk about that. That isn't a company. So props to you, dude. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
That yeah, seeing your name that makes more sense to me now because yeah, seeing your name in the pop swag thing, I was like, oh, is Lyndon going? Nope, he's a sponsor. It just says Lyndon Whalen here, and he's a sponsor. you know? Um, awesome, dude. Well, I'll be seeing you back out there at KWC next year for sure too, and we can
Yeah,
be on the final stage together. So I'm looking forward to that
yeah.
day.
Gotta be hitting those 90 or 90 91, 92-point runs.
Yeah,
Next
hey,
year
to
might
be
be a
safe, we should
93.
probably go for 97. So I'll see you up there with a 97 prelim.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's get into the instant
The
questions, dude.
Honda is happening next year.
Yeah, literally, no, 100% Hunter's
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of great questions here. So we're just gonna start off with Cooper Iranaga. He says, in the kendama scene, what do you want to be remembered by?
Oh, great question. Shout out Cooper. Shout out Alaska. Probably just hopefully I made people. Hopefully I treated them with respect. I think that'd be the biggest thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
be cool to be remembered for tricks and kendama related stuff, but realistically, like, people will remember you based off how you made them feel and what you did for them and how you interacted with them. So just hopefully everyone I've met, I've been respectful and kind, and I wasn't having a bad day and wasn't grouchy from a late flight or something. I've just always tried to be like real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, someone who's just respectful, respectful pro, respectful player, respectful
Yeah.
person. Yeah, awesome. And then Christian Fraser asked, "What was your first big push of motivation to elevate your kendama play?"
Yeah. Yeah. He's baiting me right there. He's trying to get me to say something, but he's hinting at I got grounded in the 8th grade when I first found kendama. Shortly afterwards, uh, probably 4 months of playing in, I got grounded severely. I did some bad stuff that we can't go into on this call, but
Okay.
I basically, yeah, he got in some trouble. But I basically had like a month of just nothing, like literally no sports, no hanging out with friends, no Xbox. Literally, I come home, go to your room. But I had kendama, so I'm like, this really isn't too bad. I just literally get to play kendama all day. So I landed so many tricks for the first time in that month. Like that was, I got good.
Yeah.
Like in my school, I became like the best in my school, and like that was when I became like, oh wow, I'm actually like with a little practice, I can kind of do some cool tricks. But I got all my first like stalls and lunars and all that. But it was 8th grade, and I was inspired by the free time my mother had given me by removing my Xbox and sports and hanging out from my daily life.
Yeah. So okay, so you got grounded, and that was really the peak. That was with like the
Yeah,
initiate. Yeah,
that was when I like
that was
went
a
from like
spark.
having I went from having one to like, oh, I'm the best at McClure Middle School. Yeah, like I remember I was like, I'm not missing a bird flip ever again.
That's what he did. Yeah, so you ended up being the best at your middle school then. Yeah, that's cool.
I did.
I never
Yeah,
got there. I never got there.
yeah. I wonder why. That sucks,
So
dude.
following middle school, there was always players better than me, dude. But I'm happy that you were able to get that title. That's actually it means a lot back then, honestly, for like just
Yeah.
for a
I
short period of
mean,
time to swap out of people.
you were probably like the best. At least you were the best in your household, maybe.
My household, still though, second best though.
Yeah.
Uh, Joe Kanama, Joe Brackman says, "How have your inspirations changed over the years?"
Wow, great question, Joe. Uh, my inspirations, I feel like they've gotten younger. Like I used to look up to players, and then you get sponsored, and then you kind of find your own and start doing things. And now the up and comers, like the younger kids, kind of what we were talking about earlier in the chat,
Hmm.
like people landing things that are just like a lot of honestly. Shout out Joe, like a lot of the Lock Studios team. I love watching a lot of their tricks, like all of them. Joe, Casey, Zachy, even Danny, like all of them are just landing tricks from like, bro, wow, like it's just really refreshing. Uh, so oh yeah, I'm more like growth perspective, I guess. I'm thinking about like tricks that are gonna help grow kendama and like that are cool and just a wider perspective. I
Mm,
still have personal goals, but maybe like less about myself now than when I first got in.
yeah. So players wise, your inspirations are largely from the Lock Studios team.
Oh, yeah. If he was, I might have just that. If talking about player wise, yeah. Like if it's because player wise, like I started looking up to Zach Yord. Like that was who inspired me when I first started. Zach Yord. Now it's like, yeah, players like the Lock Studios team, Ryoga, Takia. Man, yeah, I guess I'm just thinking about like my modern inspirations. So many players have come and gone. I
Yeah.
still think like so Canada is like somehow arguably like the most underrated superstar kendama player of all time. I feel like he just should be on the Mount Rushmore of best ever. Maybe he just gets overlooked, but people have come in that I'm like, oh, I just love how they play. But right now, yeah, Lock
Yeah.
Studio, they're killing it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Over the past years, I mean, inspirations change all the time, and yeah, it's sad to see some inspirations like come and then go, but that's just the nature of this. Not everybody stays in kendama or at the level that whatever, and inspirations change. And it's cool to hear your current ones too. Yeah, Lock Studios is a really awesome team. Thomas
Yeah,
Frankenson asks, he says, I think Thomas.
yeah.
When did Lyndon decide to start prioritizing his faith, and how is it transferred into kendama?
Dang, dude, nice question. I do know Thomas. He's a ripper. He's in the school.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the school community. Actually, I met him at Race to Lace in Chattanooga. He's a really cool guy, really nice family. I think the beginning of 2023 is when I was like, it started to click. I'm like, I should get my faith involved in kendama. I don't know how, but it started like being clear to me that like, okay, I've never really put the two and two together. I've always like been a Christian and following Christ my whole life, not as faithfully as I should. And then I've played kendama professionally for a large portion of my life. And so I kind of was just like figuring out how, why. Like, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do like a mission service or like a prayer worship thing at an event. I don't think that's the way to do it. I don't want to bore people. I want to give a real message. So I figured best way is just like just put it through myself. The way when
Yeah.
I talk to people, interact with them, meet them at events, so I could really just try and connect with them and make them feel, literally just make them feel loved and appreciated, and like want them to come back, and like they have a reason to come back. And slowly that's like morphed into putting out my pro model and kind of just applying to how I compete and just worked its way into every aspect of kendama. But probably 2023, and it's like slowly just dwindled in. I'm not sure what made me want to do it. Probably appreciation for being able to play pain free
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but all I know is without faith, you got nothing to stand on. So I just knew I had to. I knew I had to give the thanks to God and let him drive and steer, and I'll
Yeah.
just keep following.
I love
So
that, dude, and I love that, and and on top of what you said, I mean, if you're and how you're, spreading that to others and letting people know about it through your actions, and not even like the goal is to be so positive and to let that power, let that new energy shine through you, and it's amazing you're gonna positively impact lives that way, and if people, and then the huge bonus is like if people ask about it, it's like wow, and then like if they start asking you about maybe why your energy the way it is and how you got there, then of course, then the massive bonus is like, all right, now you're sharing your story and how it's affected you, and sharing, and I think that's amazing, dude. I think that's absolutely amazing. So I
yeah,
love
thanks,
that, and
bro.
that's what I did too. I mean, I asked you about it. I asked you about it,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
noticed. I took notice pretty fast, and we had a great conversation around that. So I love that,
yeah.
dude. I think that's amazing.
Thank you,
What
man.
is
We did.
your
I remember that. That was a good one.
mhm. What is your absolute dream trick?
Oh, dude, I forgot a couple. One that I've wanted for a very long time, and I think I'm just. It's not really like a specific trick, but it's more just like a crazy. Like I've always envisioned a crazy long combo, whether it's like some progressive taps or juggles, but you end it with like whatever it is. I love doing like these cush swaps, like the down spikes. You
Hmm.
end whatever this long combo is with like a cush, and then you dart it, like you cushion, and then you throw like into the tama. But like, I want one that's like the full string length, like 10 fingers distance, just and then you can like catch the spike.
Wow.
Almost like, I don't know, like, yeah, just something where like you literally have to just be willing to risk your whole line for the ending spike. That's such a small probability. Like, I just think that'd be so cool if you were landing a banger line, like so many taps, juggles, and people are waiting for your ender, and then you just whip out like a 10-foot harpoon shot. But yeah, I don't know. I guess kind of want to hit 10 tap. It's not really a dream trick. It's more just a trick I really am motivated to get as well. 10 tap. I want to
Yeah.
join the 10 tap club.
Yeah. 10
So
tap club. Yeah, that ender sounds insane, dude. I hope that happens because that would be one of the
yeah,
craziest looking tricks of all time.
it's a good line. Yeah, cushions.
Yeah, dude.
I hope so, man.
Yeah, I think it'll happen if you try it. And even if it's just like honestly, even if it was like around USA, toss the lighthouse. I can just imagine right now it's like, all right, around USA, toss the lighthouse, flip swap, full extension. Like, I don't know,
And just
just
catch people
fucking
off
it.
guard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like even that would just be so awesome to see.
All right,
The
I'll mess with it.
last question I have, and this is you can interpret this how you want. Session till I rest asks, what level was the hardest for you to keep going and to keep getting better? What level? I think they're referring to like kind of what skill level you were at.
Mm. I mean, dude, probably like now, probably being at a pro level and then being at a professional level, and then people come along that raise the professional level even higher, and suddenly like you're still a pro, but the level's been pushed, so you have to like really
Mm-hmm.
like you basically have to relearn and learn. Like you basically become a novice again in some tricks. So like probably now you have to relearn things, unlearn things, keep some foundations, adapt basically. A lot of adapting.
Yeah.
That or yeah, I would say that because I feel like the beginner months of kendama are like those are the most fun. Like you're addicted. You're truly hooked the first 2 months. So progress is fun. And again, maybe I'm thinking of an old school mindset though, but oh yeah, for me personally, I'd say right now that was the toughest level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If
That
that
makes
makes
sense.
sense to him at
It
all.
does. It
Okay,
does
yeah,
make sense. Yeah, the pro level because it's not like I don't know. There's no like labeled level past the pro level. So it's very
yeah.
much. So I think in that I think there's a big discrepancy of skill within the pro level because even players playing in the pro
Oh
division.
yeah,
I mean,
dude.
there's a massive discrepancy. I
It's
mean, because
huge. It's
yeah, I mean,
huge.
honestly,
Yeah.
it's huge. Like if you enter pro division bracket, you could still be like hundreds upon hundreds of hours below the person competing right across from you, except that this is the highest level you can compete in. And yeah, so yeah, it's interesting in that sense. But I agree with you. I mean, the pro level is like it's like you get there, it's like yes, but it's really just the beginning, honestly, in a way, because then you're really like in the same yeah, I guess competing in the same realm as all these monsters that you used to look up to. Now you're competing in the same realm as them, and you obviously know that there's so many levels to go to, and there's always going to be another level. There's always going to be another level for every single player, and I think that's a huge beauty of Kendama. Like going back to what we were talking about earlier about comparison and stuff. We all it's easy. I mean, it's no secret to any of us that you see someone better than you, and it's like all right, there's another level. Like there's always going to be someone better, and it's all about asking the questions like how do I get there? Like what are they doing that I'm not? How can I implement some of what they're doing into my life, and just going from there. And yeah, I agree with you though. It's tough at the pro level. Yeah, but it's awesome at the same time. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. Well, Lyndon, it's been time has flown by. I'm gonna have to cut up this podcast a bit, but
yeah,
but
dude. Sorry about that.
people who are listening they won't notice it all. It'll be seamless for them. But yeah, that's all
Cut
good,
out
dude.
4 separate
Cut out four
times.
times, but it's all right. Dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today. I really enjoyed it, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I think this will be a really enjoyable conversation for people to listen to.
Dude, thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for listening and everyone tuning in. make sure you stay involved with Gallagher Kendama as it keeps moving forward, because it's on the verge of something special, I think, man. It's definitely something different, something Kendama needed. And yeah, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to be a part of this and watch it continue to grow.
Let's go. Thank you, Lyndon.
Let's
All
go,
right.
baby. Always, man.
Have a good night, Lyndon.
Peace out. Hey, and I'll see you. I'll see you in a few weeks, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. We'll see each other at ATLO. I'll see you next weekend, baby. Let's go. All right, dude.
ATLO.
All
Yeah,
right.
baby. Let's get it.
All right. Peace, Lyndon.
All right. Peace. Have a great
Peace.
night.